Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, I'm Dr. Doreen Downing, and I'm a psychologist, and I host this podcast, Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. When I invite guests to come onto this show, I ask them to, what you might call unzip and go back to where the struggle was in their life when they felt like they didn't have a voice. And what we get to learn is more about, what happened? Was there some circumstance? I mean, because we aren't born without a voice or a sense of ourselves. Early on is when our sense of who we are, what we can do, and our confidence actually arise pretty early. And when it doesn't, sometimes that struggle to find your voice later in life continues. So today, I would like to introduce Chris Weals. Is that how you say your last name, Chris?
Weals.
Wells.
Yeah.
Chris Wells. And after struggling for years with low self-esteem and a lack of purpose, and after taking a year off from work to travel around the world, and after doing a lot of deep diving and growing, Chris decided to create an intentional path forward and started coaching in early 2020. Well, that's very recent, and I support you getting out there for sure. You obviously had to feel like you found your voice to be able to make an intentional choice like that. But we like to start early on, and that wasn't always the case. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dr. Downing. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, let's go with some of the sense of when you look back. What was it like, and how did you experience not having a voice?
Sure. I really think it goes back to a pretty young age. For me, my interests in school weren't quite the same as my older brothers. I'm the youngest of three boys, and my two older brothers were very interested in school, their schoolwork, doing well, and they were both excellent students throughout their educational careers. And I came along and was way more interested in socializing and making friends. And I did okay in school, but I just didn't have the same level of interest. And my family didn't know how to deal with that, I think. Because I come from a long line of engineers, a lot of left-brained people. So math and science was kind of the focus in my family. And I came along and I was more of a people person. And that just wasn't as known in my family or celebrated. And so I felt like it wasn't okay to be me. I got in trouble a lot for talking in class, for having conversations with other kids, and because I wasn't paying attention and all of that. And so it seemed to be a negative thing, that this interest of mine.
I like the way you're posing that, actually, and I think the listeners, there'll probably be lots of people who can relate that their natural, bubbly, bright spirit is who you really are early on in life. And yet the surrounding, the environment says, hey, you don't fit in. And that sounds like it was your case. But when you were at school, it also sounds like you got in trouble. Where did you feel like people really went, yay, let's play, or let's have a good time together?
Oh, I think probably outside of the classroom, and even on on breaks, recess when I was really young, and then playing sports with people and my friends. I got away from team sports when I was a teenager, and participated a lot in individual sports like skateboarding and snowboarding. And I had a large group of friends, and we all were into the same stuff. And I became a bit of a leader in that circle, and did quite well socially, but my studies continued to deteriorate through K through 12 and into high school. Got really bad, and I kind of got dark emotionally around that time. Also, I think because I felt so stifled. I was still
Uh-huh.
trying to fit in this box, and my brothers both graduated, top 10 in their class, and and I, came along and I'm like barely getting by, and I was bored with it, and also just feeling bad because I wasn't doing well. But then outside of that, I was thriving. I had a large group of friends and I was doing quite well socially.
Yeah, what a dichotomy to have a sense of your bright spirit and yet comparing. And I hear that that's one of the issues for you, but also for lots of people. They compare themselves to, well, other people in their family, but also what the standard is in our educational system. The A is what they say what we need and what we're striving for.
Yeah, absolutely. And that living that way, comparison, and when I think that is something that's taught to most of us when we're young by our education systems and our parents and all that. But that's a real joy killer when we compare. And what I used to do is compare my whole self to a part of someone else, and then felt like I fell short, and I'm just not a good enough person in general because I'm not as good at math as my brother, or science, or whatever thing. I wound up comparing my entire being to one strong aspect of another human being and going, see, I'm no good because I'm not as good at that one thing.
Oh, I hear a lot of that later on in life with the clients I work with, exactly what you're talking about, the comparison of self, especially in, let's say, corporate environments or even in entrepreneurship. The ability to get out there and to be more fully expressed is hard, but when you compare yourself to others who are, I'm going to quote this, air quotes, successful.
Right.
Hey, I don't
Right.
look like them. And so my business isn't thriving because I don't look like them. But maybe you're just trying to be like them as opposed to learn to be more of yourself, which is what we're talking about today, being yourself. And I'm so glad you pointed that out, that one aspect of yourself that, I mean, the whole of you is being compared to one aspect of another human being.
Right. And that really can make you feel bad about yourself, make you feel less than. And that's what I did to myself for a long time. And it caused a lot of confusion in myself too. Like, who am I? What do I want? Initially, when I was starting college, so I did make it through high school. And after that, when I was starting college, I really had an interest in psychology, but that was kind of unheard of in my family. And I just, I didn't get a lot of direct pressure to not pursue that path, but it just seemed like it wasn't really celebrated or supported in my family. And so I actually wound up switching pretty early on from psychology to accounting. And I picked accounting just because I was like good enough with numbers, and my older brother was doing it. I looked up to him and I just thought, well, I'll just do that. Like, that seems like a better path forward for me given my family situation and my thoughts around money. I also had like a lot of fear around money because I grew up not poor, but lower middle class, and there was a lot of fear in my family around money. And so I thought, well, what better way to make money than like focus on finances for for business? I'll just have this whole dedicated path toward finance and accounting. And I had a very successful career for 20 plus years, but it was never a good fit for me. I never really enjoyed it, and it never it never felt on purpose or fulfilling for me. Aspects of it did, but not overall.
Choices. Wow. The choices that, not that you were forced, but that the
Right.
circumstances led you to make a choice. I hear that a lot too. But before I go into the wake up and how you really after 20 years in accounting, came to make a different choice or decision. I want to ask, because you said it a couple of times, I like the phrase celebrated. You said that about early on, who you are, the way you are being more celebrated was not celebrated in your family. And so just say a little bit about, I can understand parents who want their children to be upward mobile, I guess is the idea. Is that what was going on, or was there something else?
Yeah, I think it was really just what my family was used to. I think everyone just labeled themselves in my family as left-brained. We're science people, we're math people. That's just who we are. We really value and celebrate IQ, right? Like intelligence was this really big focal point, instead of maybe EQ or just being a kind, compassionate, loving person. It was more about the intelligence, being left-brained and doing well with that stuff. And so, I mean, I was loved and liked in my family and even adored by certain family members, but it was the thing that I focused on so much was what I saw as being so important and celebrated at the highest level in my family. And that was good grades, and it was having a good memory and being good at math and science, really.
Right. And guess what? That reflects society.
Right.
So let's move forward then. You made it through schools and made this career choice, and you've admitted that, yeah, you plugged yourself in, but it really wasn't who you are truly in your core and your spirit. So what happened that you woke up, or that was that a series of episodes, or what happened?
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a long story to that, but ultimately what happened was, uh, I watched this video. It was a Jack Canfield masterclass on Gaia, on creating your life purpose statement. And here I was kind of going through life feeling that, and I was aware that that was missing for myself, but I had no idea I thought I had to find it. Like it was something that was already out there for me, and I had to search and find it. And he came along with this exercise you can do to basically create it. And I went through the steps, and it was an epiphany for me. I had this aha moment. Oh wow, this actually feels really good. There's something to this. And so that was right around the same time I left to go on this year-long trip of traveling all around the world with my girlfriend. And we met people from all walks of life, different religions and socioeconomic status. And we just, it was this hugely eye-opening experience to travel around the world. I've always been a spiritual person, have felt the connection with God. I was Christian going into that trip, and coming out of it, not so much Christian anymore, but more just felt a deeper connection to God, a deeper personal connection, and just felt like I didn't need religion anymore. So that I changed in that way, and just started, when I actually went, like coming back from that trip, I actually went and got another job doing consulting work in accounting and finance, and then worked for this startup running their accounting and finance for a while, but it just couldn't do it anymore. Working in an office environment like that, doing work that was just okay because I knew how to do it and I was decent at it, but didn't love it. I just couldn't keep showing up for that anymore. And so I really started, I had written down my whole life purpose and kept coming back to that, coming back to my experiences traveling, and just thought I have to do something different. Or what can I do? And just based on all of my life experiences that I had, in high school, I experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of death of close friends, a lot of grief and guilt and shame that came along with all of that, and suffered from depression and anxiety for a long time, and had worked with my own therapist and a life coach and all of these things to help me develop the tools that I needed to manage these things and overcome them and just become healthier and happier and living more fully. And because of all of these experiences, I thought life coaching. I thought I want to do something where I can help people believe better thoughts about who they are and what they want in life, and like why they're here, and help them gain their own sense of purpose, and turn that into a more meaningful, fulfilling, enjoyable life, help people have more adventure and more play, and love more fully. And like just all of every, I started learning about life coaching and learned that through the coaching techniques, you can help people with all these different aspects of life. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. This is something for me, for sure.
Well, if somebody could, those who are listening, I just want to say your face lights up when you talk about possibility and life coaching. When you talked about the travel with your girlfriend and how you, it was such an eye opener, and you came back and you realized, well, you didn't have so much religion, but I really got that you were more spiritual, connected to a deeper meaning for yourself. And the whole idea of you returning and trying to plug yourself in just seems like, oh no wonder it couldn't work. It's like a plant that got nourished and grew out there in the world, came back and tried to fit himself in the same small pot, and you couldn't do it. You couldn't do
That's
it.
a great analogy. That's what it felt like. It just didn't fit anymore. I didn't fit in that box anymore.
I also got that you had hints, some whispers, you might say, that something wasn't quite lined up for you around yourself, your work, what you're doing, and meaning. And so before you took that trip, was that part it was did you do the Jack Canfield um, exercises before you took off or
I think it was actually during.
uh-huh.
I think it was during that trip.
So your soul was already stirring, wasn't it? Yeah, the
Yeah,
adventure,
yeah.
the not only the adventure externally, but the adventure internally, what goes on inside of ourselves. And yeah, we can people get stuck in depression and patterns and anxiety, but the willingness to say, whoa, there's got to be more. Where is it? And the search, there's who is it? The Search for Meaning is a good book. So I think that's
Yeah,
what
I
we're
love
talking
that
about.
book.
Yeah. So search for meaning, and it feels like you found it. And so let's talk a little bit about what what about you and being a coach nowadays?
Right. So it's something that energizes me when I do the work, when I work with my clients and help them have breakthrough moments in their lives. It just fires me up. I come alive. You mentioned you could see it in my face just talking about it, right? And like that's what I get from it versus the work I used to do, which drained me, right? And instead of energizing it, just zapped me. And so there's that, and then just the realization that I've had myself when it comes to coaching and the models that I use and the tools that I use in my coaching practice with people, and how much they have helped me personally. I mentioned having anxiety disorder in the past. I used to take Xanax because I would have panic attacks, and then this like lower level just general anxiety disorder where I felt anxious all the time. And so I took Xanax, and this was years ago. In the early 2000s, I was on it when I was in my early 20s, and I learned how to manage it to the point where I didn't need it. 2007 was the last time I took um, a Xanax for my anxiety. It was because I was working with a, a therapist at the time, and I had a friend who challenged me to get off the drugs, and so I did a lot of work on that and was able to do it. So I know from firsthand experience that there are things that you can do to help yourself overcome these situations that can be very limiting. And so, yeah, I just feel just so compelled to help others. And not necessarily with things like anxiety and depression, but that can be a side result, benefit from doing the work that we do. It's like more around helping people with confidence and decision making and getting better results for themselves in life. And that ultimately leads to people becoming a different person, which includes feeling better about themselves and about life.
Yes, the idea about becoming a different person to me says something about voice, and that the sense of where your voice comes from, if you're different, it sure seems like the voice comes from a different place. Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's so the difference is just getting more in touch with who you actually are and allowing that. And I think the voice comes from your truth about who you are and what matters to you. So like developing your values, or at least like becoming, like getting to understand your values, what really matters, and developing that sense of purpose. And from that, I think that's something that you could be really passionate about and bold about, and just share that with the world, because it feels so good to do that. And so now I just feel like I'm just sharing a truth, and I think it's a beneficial truth, and so I feel at ease sharing that with the world.
Oh, I really like, and I hope people hear this, that the voice, your voice, is more of a sense of I'm sharing my voice rather than I'm trying to get my message out there and, let me stand up and shout. It's more just, I have something to share. I've learned something and I know it has value. I have value, and my voice comes from what I know and my truth. It just feels so natural.
Right. Yeah, it comes more from a place of excitement, and just like wanting to give that gift away, because it's done so much for me.
Yeah, I see that. And well, we're coming to an end, and I want to be able to give you some room to share with people how they can get in touch with you, and if there's any kind of tip around, because you mentioned anxiety and your belief that people can move through it, and since anxiety is a lot of what stops people from speaking up, any tips you can give around anxiety?
Sure, I have a tool that I've been using uh, for myself, and now with my clients, it's been really helpful. It's called the RAIN technique, and it's an acronym. So RAIN stands for, R is the recognition. So recognize what it is you're feeling. And so if it's anxiety, you can recognize it. Okay, I'm feeling anxious. And the A is to allow it. So let it be there. And I really think this is the critical part, because when we don't allow things, when we resist what is, they grow stronger. And that's when they really get a hold of us and become a disorder, and lead to addictions and other unhealthy things, because we're avoiding feeling something that's uncomfortable or painful. So allow the discomfort or the pain of the anxiety to be there. That's the A. And then I is investigate it. So what might be causing this feeling of anxiety, and also what can I do to help myself feel better. And that leads to the N, which is nurture. So nurture yourself, actually give yourself whatever it is you need to to feel better. And but don't avoid it. Don't do something that's ultimately going to make you feel worse, like drinking or doing drugs, or just binge watching TV to escape and not deal with it, but actually allow yourself to feel it. But then maybe all you need to do is meditate or breathe deeply and slowly, so that you can calm your body down physically, which will lead to your mind calming down as well, which is usually all I need, because those moments still come on. I'm not a huge fan of flying, and I've done a lot of flying now, and I can feel that little bit of panic come on a plane. And so I'll go through this RAIN process with myself, and really what I need is just to remember that I'm fine. There's plenty of air to breathe. I'm not going to be trapped on this plane forever. Just breathe, and then it'll just go away pretty quickly.
Yeah, I hear that we talk about voice, and I hear that you also have a voice within you. What you just demonstrated is that self-talk. And so I just want to summarize again, that was RAIN, recognize, A is allow,
Mhm.
I is investigate, and N is nurture or nourish. I wasn't quite sure, but it seems like that last one, I like that you point to what we need, what our body, what our mind, what our heart needs is nourishment rather than just go out and act, find a strategy. So it seems like it's really compassionate, your approach.
Absolutely, that's what I was going to say. What we really mostly need is self-compassion. Right? When we're feeling a certain way that we don't like or don't get the results we want, a lot of times we beat ourselves up. We're really hard and hard on ourselves and overly judgmental, and that just makes everything worse. So what we need is to pause and just understand, like, we're all just children learning how to walk, and that you wouldn't yell at your toddler learning how to walk, right? And that's all you are in this life. That's all we all are. So allow yourself to figure things out as you go, and know that you're not going to get everything right 100% of the time, and it's okay.
Yeah, self-acceptance.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. Just last words, please.
Oh yeah. You asked how to get a hold of me or in touch. I'm on LinkedIn, so it's just under my name, Chris Weals, Weals, and also I do a lot of free talks through the Life Coach University, which is founded by a friend of mine, and it's a wonderful platform. There's a lot of other coaches on there that just go on, and we call them PIF talks. PIF stands for Pay It Forward. So we do a lot of free. It's basically like webinars, but it's just us sharing. It's sharing our voice, our message, and it's absolutely free to attend these online sessions through lifecoachuniversity.com. And all we ask is that you pay the kindness forward. So go out in the world and spread the love. And so that's one way you can listen to me and then find other coaches doing the same thing. I really enjoy being part of that platform.
Yeah, you're generous. Thank you very much, Chris, for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person during interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.